Hello everybody, welcome back to Fanblade. It is the summer season 2022. We've had winter, it's gone, the weather's warmed up and I'm back in the garage doing things. Unfortunately, you'll no doubt be aware, the economy is completely tanked and bringing loads of cool stuff in from overseas just isn't viable right now. So instead of buying stuff, I'm going to build stuff, which is kind of the point of this channel anyway. Now, in the last video, all those many months ago, I took a vintage coil and I potted it in a surround and I made it good. I sort of saved it from the brink of being destroyed. Lots of people commented on that. They said that was pretty cool. Even some of my friends came up to me in person and said that they thought that that was pretty cool. So, I've gone down a rabbit hole of figuring out how do I make a pickup from scratch. And there's an awful lot of stuff out there about that. You can do a lot of research, and that's pretty much what I've done for 3 months. And what I've discovered is that there is an enormous amount of proven science and electrical mathematics that go into understanding how these things work and why they sound the way they do. Now, I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage because the sum total of my test equipment is this little multimeter, which I bought at a garage sale for $5. However, I'm not going to let that stop me. It's a magnet with a coil wrapped around it. How hard can that possibly be to make? People have been doing it for ages for all different types of applications, because when you have a magnet with a coil of copper wrapped around it, you can have a motor, a generator, a microphone, a speaker, a guitar pickup. That's what we're going to focus on. Now, I did buy a little bit of stuff. I have bought some wire. Now, that was probably the most expensive thing that I've bought. That's going to get completely wasted. I have to accept that there's going to be trial and error here, and I have to accept that I'm probably going to go through this entire, roll before I produce a pickup that sounds even equivalent to what I could buy for relatively cheap. However, I have in the past had a lot of trouble finding pickups that I want. So if I can use this as a tool to learn how to make them, then that's very valuable knowledge to me because I won't be relying on other suppliers. I can just make the thing that I want. But copper alone is not going to do it. I've also got some Alnico pole pieces. These are all straight from AliExpress. I want to do some experiments with ceramic as well, and neodymium while I'm there, while I'm figuring stuff out. I have also got, because we need a motor, speed controller for motor. I've also got a counter and a sensor, and I've even, because I am a big fan of Bartolini pickups and they pot their pickups in epoxy. In fact, I believe I made a comment in the last video about not really needing a vacuum chamber unless I was planning on doing this, more than twice a year. Well, here is a little vacuum pump and a little glass food container, but it's got a vent on the top, and I believe that's going to have enough power to suck enough air out of this that it'll suck the air bubbles out of a pickup. And a 12-volt power supply to power it all. Now, putting these things aside for now, the first thing is to design a little box. It's just woodworking 101, just a little plywood box with a panel on the front. And I'll figure out the rest as I go, I think. But right now, got to build the machine to do the thing so that I can use it to learn how to do the other thing. Yes, this is going to be a few videos, but we're going to get there. Okay, I've got all the bits cut out and all the edges cleaned up. It's going to look something like this. If that'll sit nice and square, that'll go on the back. And then of course I've got a lid. Now what I'm doing for the front, I'm going to use a piece of acrylic and just heat it up and just bend it in half. And that will make the display a little bit easier to read. Also, as the motor sticks out about here, the thing's going to be spinning here, so I'm going to need a way of clamping the thing on this side, which I'll have to think about what I'm going to do there, but then the entire thing is going to get mounted on this board, so it'll be a sort of a standalone unit that will be hopefully pretty good. I like the way it's looking so far. I will carry on. Right, I realised just in time that the where the holes wound up going in the bottom there, at the back, they're very, very close together, and I wasn't going to be able to use the full-length screws because they'll run into each other. But noticed in time, got some shorter screws. They should be enough. I mean, I'm going to glue the whole thing as well. The number of screws I'm using is probably overkill, but you know, we do want this thing to be as sturdy as possible. We'll glue this up. I am not putting the top on just yet, just to give myself a bit more space to work inside the box if I'm needing to screw a whole bunch of stuff and wire things together, and I've no idea how I'm going to mount the motor, but cross that bridge when we come to it, I suppose. So here it is all together. It's going to sit on the base like that, and of course the lid will be going on there. I've just sanded the angle on the front there, and that'll just make a nice front face that I can easily see what the display is saying. Basically the motor is going to have to go in probably central there. What I'm going to have to do is actually cut a wee hole, poke the entire thing through, and then probably have just an acrylic panel on this side. Right, well, I've done good and I've done bad. The good is that I can't really believe that worked first time. That's, you know, some very precise holes that needed to be drilled there, and it's all just a perfect fit. The bad thing I did was that I haven't drilled any holes to actually mount it on the thing, so I'm going to have to take it all apart again. What we've actually got here, this is a 12-volt power supply, 12-volt motor, 12-volt motor controller. It can go forward and back, and off, and then a speed controller. Just thinking about the placement of everything else in the box as well, I've drilled a hole there for the power to go through. I'll have to disconnect that and poke the wire through. Then I think that can pretty much go down in that corner. Now, the PCB inside this shielding box is there are standoffs to separate it from the metal housing, so that's fine. The metal housing can just bolt straight in there, no worries at all. There are no standoffs that came with this, and I don't want to screw it right down to the wood because you risk damaging it. So you might flex the board, which could crack some of the tracks on it. So that's no good. What I've done is I've got a little piece of vulcanized rubber, and I've just drilled a small hole through it, so that can act as a standoff on all four corners of that. And yeah, so that's going to sit sort of about there. In between them, of course, I'm going to have my leads on that side. And of course the motor will be poking through here. As I said, I've had all the parts wired up individually. I haven't actually connected them all at the same time yet. So this will be kind of interesting. So there's a speed control that can go about there. There's a direction control which can go about there. And then I've got the sensor. Now that's a neodymium magnet, and every time it goes past the sensor, it will send a signal to this box here, which will count 1. So I need to drill a hole and mount that fairly close to there, I would imagine, because otherwise the disc's going to be enormous. Yes, so small hole in there. And then I think I can start attaching things. I haven't made the front panel yet. I sort of want to see if all of this works first. Making it up as I go. Okay, that should be pretty much it. I have checked that's on. Yeah, that's on minimum. That's off. I've double checked the wiring. All that's left to do now is to plug it in and see if it blows up in my face. Well, it's alive. LEDs are on. Display is on. Does the motor work? Yes, the motor works. Okay, that's going counterclockwise. Yep, clockwise. Sweet. Oh, these lights light up. And the other one goes too. Okay, cool. Right. Oh, is it counting? Is it counting? I've got the magnet. Hopefully this should. Ooh, if I hold it properly. Yes. Yes, okay. Right, good. That's good. Now, the next thing, or the next several things. Right, I need to make the front panel. I need to work out what I'm doing with the actual. I should unplug this. I need to work out what I'm doing with the actual business end of the thing. I need to make some sort of disc, turntable, platter, whatever you want to call it, to go on there. and then I need a clamping mechanism to actually hold the flatwork on to that. Then I need a guide. I need a bolt out here, and I'm thinking I'll just make a couple of little acrylic sort of tabs that can be slid along so that you can run the wire through and not have it wrap around the outside of the of anything. So yes, still plenty to do. Yes, I think I will think about thinking. I've had a think, and I've had a rummage around in the spares bin, and I've come across a volume knob that just happens to have the exact same size hole and the set screw there. So that will just go on there. And then what I can do is I can make a disc out of wood, drill a hole and simply glue that in. Then I can chuck that in the lathe and true it up so it's going to run nice and balanced. Glue the magnet onto one side or one edge at the precise distance, and that should be good. So that's fine. For clamping it on, I'm thinking simply a post with a screw and a bearing mounted on the end, maybe some cork. Actually, probably quite a lot of cork, just for padding. And that's probably the simplest way to do that. Then at some point, of course, I need to make a front face and put the lid on. And I'd quite like to paint this as well, because it would be nice if it looked nice. Okay, so now this is the first test of the counter. I've installed the magnet in the back of the disc, and in theory this should just start counting up now. That's at nothing. Look at it go! Fantastic. Well, alright, I have had a rummage around and I have found some things because my garage is full of junk. This is a skateboard bearing. Really, really easy to find these. This is a pipe fitting. It's a standard size. I bought this for a couple of bucks at a hardware store. That's a press fit. That's a perfect fit once you press it in there, and it'll never come out either. Piece of M8 rod just goes in there. The whole concept for the support head on this thing is that goes on there, that goes on there, that bolts down to the other side, so the bearing is held on the rod but can still turn freely, and then that whole thing just gets press fit into there. I'll probably cut this down a little bit and glue some cork on it. But then that whole mechanism will just go through a support post. If I can get it in exactly the right spot, then this should work pretty perfectly. Yeah. Alright, so that's come together rather nicely. That's just going to sit sort of about there, and if I start the motor, then in theory this will wind in. It would clamp onto whatever's there. Ooh. There's a little bit of slop in it, like nothing's bolted down properly. That then tightens up there and runs pretty sweet. Yeah, I suppose next I've really Next, I've really got to screw this down in its final position so I can work out exactly where this is going to be, because we don't want this off-centre in any way. Also, I had a hunt around for some cork. I couldn't find any cork, but I did find a piece of leather. So that's good. We'll get out the awful ADOS F2, and we'll stick some leather on there, because suede is quite grippy. I might have to rough up this side a bit because it's a little bit shiny. It might not stick very nicely. So F2, yeah, man, it stinks. It's great glue, it sticks anything to anything, but it absolutely stinks. I'm going to go open the door, because you're supposed to let this stuff dry for 10 minutes, and then as soon as you stick that onto there, it'll be permanent, because it's good stuff. But yeah, man, it takes a long time and it stinks. Alright, that's been about 10 minutes. It's touch dry, which is time to stick this to that, and that's never going to come off. That's now permanently attached to that. I'll do the same with this one. And there we go. Okay, I'll give those a couple more minutes to just to set up properly. Then, where are we next? I need to make a wire guide, which is literally just going to be a bolt through there with a couple of bits of acrylic sticking off it, so I can guide the wire onto the bobbin exactly where I want it. Okay, so I've just made this really as a test piece, but as I was putting it all together, I suddenly realised I've just made it and I didn't film it, so sorry about that. But yeah, these are just little bits of acrylic that I bent round, drilled a hole, put a screw with a large head in there. You can just tighten that up and that'll stay put wherever you want it to go. I'm going to drill a hole about there, and then that's just going to be a wire guide. That was a whole lot simpler than I thought it was going to be. So with that done, it is now time to very carefully cut these out. Then I can put the lid on, then I can make the front panel, put it all together, and we should be ready to have a test wind. I've thought about flat work as well, and how I'm actually going to construct the bobbins for the pickup. I did think about using popsicle sticks, because it's an obvious choice, except they do have a tendency to split, so I'll have to rethink that, see if I can get some nice plastic. I would like to, because I'm going to be building the surrounds out of wood, I'd quite like to make the flatwork out of wood as well. I might have to find something stronger than this though. Anyway, that's sort of on the back of my mind as I'm doing all of this, which I will do now. And there it is, a fully featured pickup winding machine. I'm really wrapped with that. It does everything you need. It goes forward, it goes back. I've got the disc nicely trued up, and this thing's perfectly centered. It's exactly everything it needs to be. It could be a little bit neater. I will concede that this doesn't look all that flash. Probably could have spent a bit more time cleaning that up. But for what is essentially a piece of industrial equipment that I hacked together out of crap that I found in my garage, I'm really, really happy with it. So, the next thing is to make some pickups, and there's a lot I've got a lot to learn here. Not least of which is all the secret tips and tricks that the pickup manufacturers don't want you to know. Well, I'm going to spend some time and figure out what those are, and then I'm going to let you know in the next couple of videos. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching, thank you very much for subscribing, and I will see you real soon. Cheers.